So finally back out under the dark skies. This is going to be the first night this season. We're just at the, sort of the twilight colours. We can just start to see the Milky Way. I'm going to get set up with the sky tracker this time and try and get some real good detail in the Milky Way. So we're just waiting for a wee bit more darkness. So another 30 minutes should do it. So hopefully the skies stay clear, which they're meant to, and we get some good detail in the Milky Way core tonight. Okay. So we're under the Milky Way now. It's now dark. I've got the dioptron set up. I've already faced it. I've not used this dioptron for a few years because I don't know, I just can't be bothered with it. But this year I'm going to try and get a wee bit better at it because I just want to practice a wee bit more. I've already faced it to the Polaris, so that's really easy to see. You just kind of use the plough and it points to the North Star, so it's already roughly aligned. I didn't have to align it bang on because I'm doing a really wide open landscape picture, so it doesn't have to be bang on, it's just roughly pointing to the north. I'm going to put my Sony A7S and I'm going to try and capture the Milky Way with the 20mm 1.8 Samyang and hopefully get an epic image. I'm going to probably do an exposure for 2 minutes and I'll get a few 2-minute exposures and then stack them together, reduce the noise and then get a nice foreground, and pretty much that's it. I'll let you know my settings and that when I've got it set up. Right, so the dioptron's all set up, pointing north. It's tracking the night sky now. I'm doing ISO 640 for 2 minutes and I'll see what that does for the shot. So I'm just about to take it. I'll have to stand still, exactly silent for 2 minutes. First time this season to capture the Milky Way. And there we go. Hopefully you can see the Milky Way behind me. You can just see the galactic core there, which is pretty awesome. It still blows my mind that you can see the Milky Way on live camera these days. So what the dioptron's doing is pretty much counteracting Earth's rotation. So we're rotating one way, which makes the stars look like they're rotating the other way. So we're kind of cancelling out of that Earth's rotation, and it's pretty much just tracking the stars as they move, as we move. So the location I'm at is just a wee Perthshire loch. Don't think it's got a name. It's literally in the middle of nowhere and it's just a nice location for the first Milky Way shot of the season before I travel hopefully a wee bit further and get some more shots that are on my bucket list. So that first image just took there, I briefly saw it and you can see some fantastic detail in the Milky Way. I'll take a few of these, as I said I'll stack them to reduce the noise, make the image really clean. I cannot move because we're on heather, and if you've ever photographed on heather you know how much of a pain that is. So here's a night sky guide. We've got Pleiades over there and Mars. Whoa, oh, I think hopefully I got that on camera. Which is a meteor just going past Mars there, so you can just see Mars just on the horizon. Then we go up to Cassiopeia and along to the Andromeda Galaxy that I can just make out with the naked eye. Got Jupiter over there, along to Saturn, and then obviously the Milky Way core straight overhead down to the horizon. And if you look to a wee bit to the north, the plough, under the plough, you can make a wee faint green and pink or purple, which hopefully starts to kick off. But yeah, great to see the night sky again. Right, so I just finished my exposures there and now I just need to get the foreground. So literally all I do is switch off my tracker and just do a foreground image. The same exposure but just with the tracker off. I might put the ISO up just a wee bit just because the foreground's pretty dark in these night sky pictures. So I'm just going to crank the ISO up to 900 and then just do a 2-minute exposure. Blend the foreground and the sky and then boom, a nice image. Put the ISO to 1000 actually. And let's hope any cars don't come along. And an awesome sight that I just saw there about 2 minutes ago was the start of Elon Musk's, like, loads of satellites. He must have just done a launch recently, because I kid you not, it was like a huge line in the night sky. I have never seen it. I saw this line in the sky, I was like, oh, is that the satellites or something? But it started just to create a huge line, and it was just absolutely mental. But I was just about to film it, and then it just disappeared, which is weird. So you could just see it on the horizon, this huge big line, and you could just make up the individual satellites, and then it just broke up. So I don't know if they'll come out again, but I'm glad I got to see what it looks like, because it's the weirdest experience, because you just see this line in the night sky, which is just not natural at all. Right, so I've just finished taking the pictures. I got my 14mm 2.8 out, and I got some really nice images of a nice leading road in the left hand side of the picture with the galactic core on the right, so hopefully that turns out really well. I did it pretty much the exact same settings as the other ones. I think I just increased my ISO just a wee bit. So I'm just going to jump back to the laptop. I'll show you how I process them, and hopefully they turn out really well. The first thing I had to do for editing my pictures was obviously stack the foreground images and then stack the sky images. And I did that on the software Sequator, which is the simplest and easiest thing to do. So as you can see on the screen, I'm just doing a wee time lapse so you can see pretty much what I'm doing. You can slow it down to see what settings and options that I use, but it's a very simple program, and it pretty much does everything for you, and this just reduces the noise in the image. And then when the stacking was done, I moved over to Photoshop and blended the stacked foreground and stacked sky images and blended them using the quick selection tool in Photoshop. All you do with that is just select the foreground. It's really good at selecting the foreground. Sometimes you have to get all the wee details like the trees and kind of zoom in and help the program out for you, but then you just drag and drop the foreground onto the sky, stacked exposure, and boom, you've got an image. And then when everything's stacked and blended, I move all the files onto Lightroom, and that's where I sort out the vignetting, the detail in the Milky Way, the colour, the foreground shadows, and I just edit the picture to how I like it. For these images, I just wanted to play about and get used to the settings again because it's been so long, but normally, as you can see on the left hand side of the Lightroom, I've got my Astro presets, and they're pretty much just a one-click wonder, so I always use them. But just for this time, I just wanted to play about with my settings and get back into the swing of things. And then finally, I had two images that I was really happy with, but I didn't choose to use the stacked images because the stacked images looked just a wee bit too soft. So I just took a 2-minute foreground and a 2-minute sky exposure, blended them, no noise reduction on them, no stacking, and I just edited them, and I just felt I got a wee bit more detail in them. But just the way these pictures turned out, I just used no stacking and just the plain raw files. So here's the final images, and I'm really happy on how they turned out.